There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Bookmaniac. Welcome back to my channel. This is another book haul. I've got plenty more where this came from. Let's get started. This is a Blame It on Ronan Hessian book. If you watched our chat, I will put a link in the show notes. He highly recommended this to me, very personally. He said, Sean, please read this. I want to know what you think. Shtetl Love Song by Grigory Kanovich. And this is a Lithuanian classic, and it's published by Nor, which specializes in Lithuanian literature and translation, as far as I know. And this is set in rural Lithuania on the eve of World War II. Kanovich, who I'd never heard of, is one of the most prominent Lithuanian writers, and it's a chunkster. I think that's the author as a child. It's about growing up Jewish in Lithuania. He was born in 1929. Translated from the Russian by Yisrael Elliott Cohen. And I am not sure, but I think this may have been a book that the wonderful podcast that I rarely listen to. It's fantastic, but I just don't make time for bookish podcasts. What's it called? It's the one that does not new releases, but kind of forgotten classics. What is it called? Backlisted. I think this was a recent backlisted pick. And I didn't listen to the episode, but it brought this novel to my attention. A Frost in May by Antonia White. And this is a British novel, first published 1933. And it is about a 9-year-old daughter of a Catholic convert sent to the convent. It's set in the convent. Introduction by Elizabeth Bowen. I know I'll at least enjoy the introduction. I've never read anything by Antonia White. Several months ago, one of my subscribers or commenters left a comment on something I was reading from maybe Urdu novel or Pakistani novel. I don't remember the context anymore. But he was from Pakistan, and I asked him for recommendations, and this is the one that I've got so far that he recommended. The author is Sadat Hassan Manto, and the story collection is called Kingdom's End. Look at that cover. Isn't that fabulous? I had never heard of him. This is translated from the Urdu by Khalid Hassan, and Manto is the most widely read and controversial short story writer in Urdu. Born 1912, died 1955. That's all I need to know, but I can't wait. The stories, according to this commenter, are supposed to be amazing, and this is I think it's Penguin's Indian division's modern classics, but I've certainly never seen it. I had to special order it, and I have it. This is from the first story called A Wet Afternoon. So this is about dead animals and a butcher, so if you don't want to hear that, just fast forward, but this is the opening paragraph. It's quite lovely, I think. On his way to school, Masood walked past a butcher carrying a huge basket on his head that contained 2 recently slaughtered sheep. Their skins had been removed, and from the bare flesh rose a misty vapor. The carcasses were so fresh that they were still throbbing. He saw it, and his body trembled, bringing a glow to his cold cheeks, and reminding him of the way one of his eyelids sometimes throbbed. The next one, I saw Greg of Supposedly Fun haul on his channel, and I had my copy before I knew that he got his, so I don't know if we saw the same tweet. I think it was a tweet that brought this to my attention. Dorothy Strachey's Olivia. I'm assuming she is related to Lytton, let's see. Yeah, his sister. And not only did she have a gay brother, but she had a gay best friend, Andre Gide, and translated his works into English. The only thing I don't like about this so far is it has an introduction by Andre Asselman, but I'll skip that. First published in 1949 under a pseudonym and based loosely on the author's own life. I love the cover. This next one was a trade of sorts with a new booktuber who I have interviewed on my channel. I'll put a link to that interview and to his channel in the show notes. And that booktuber is Freddie of The Sluggish Reader. And he read this book for the Asian Readathon, and he didn't like it, didn't finish it. Freddie is Malaysian, and this novel is a Malaysian novel. I think it's written by a gay Malaysian writer. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But certainly it is a gay-themed story, and that is The Professor by Faisal Tarani. And it's translated from what language, actually? I'm not sure what language it's translated from, but it is translated by Brigitte Bresson. It has got a great cover. Oh, maybe it's more of an L than a G themed story. It's about a feminist professor who discovers her sexuality while at an Islamic religious school. That's quite the premise. I'm just scanning because I don't want to know too much about it, but it has a lot to do with religious extremism. Well, I hope I get along with it better than Freddie did. It's not available at all in the West, so I was lucky. And I sent him a book that I didn't like and sent it airmail 2 months ago and he hasn't got it, or more than a month ago and he hasn't got it yet. I got his, so it wasn't a very fair trade so far. Well, here's another gay book. Imagine that. And this is an anthology of gay male fiction that I had never heard of, and it's got a fabulous title and cover image. Speak My Language and Other Stories. Look at that cover. Edited by Torsten Hoger. Never heard of it. As soon as I heard of it, I bought it, and here I've got it. And it's a chunky one, published in 2015. And I see names like Stephen Fry, Damon Galgut, Felice Picano, Francis King, Neil Bartlett. Are there some non-white writers in here? Patrick Gale is here. Damien Barr. Yeah, it looks very, very white. Now, there may be some non-white writers that I don't recognize as being non-white, but yeah, it's pretty white. Anyway, and I am filming this early in August, and it's Women in Translation Month, and everybody and their dog is currently reading this. I'm not going to get to it for Women in Translation Month, but hopefully later this year. Fernanda Melchor's Hurricane Season, translated by one of my favorite translators, translated from the Spanish by Sophie Hughes. This is a Mexican novel. I think you all know what it's about. It's apparently a very violent story, not everybody's cup of tea. Apparently a very compulsive read if you're into that sort of thing. I saw a Zoom presentation with the author that made me very curious to read it. Opening sentence. They reach the canal along the track leading up from the river, their slingshots drawn for battle, and their eyes squinting, almost stitched together, in the midday glare. I have a collection of stories from an American Chinese writer that I have never heard of. Not translated, so published in English. Apologies Forthcoming, Stories Not About Mao, by Zujun Eberlin. What an enigmatic title. And that's a pretty great cover, too. It was published in 2009. No, it was published earlier than this edition, 2009. Because it says on the back she won the Tart Fiction Award in 2007. So the original must have been published earlier, but strangely, there is no information about that on the page. Anyway, they are all set in China during the Cultural Revolution. That sounds amazing. Opening paragraph of the first story, Men Don't Apologize. I'm just going to guess at the pronunciation of one of these names here. Each time a prospective suitor swerved away from Wu Hong, her father couldn't help but remind her to warm the hues of her face a little. He would clumsily jest, "Have they borrowed your rice and repaid with chaff?" And he always got the rebuttal, "Where do you think I got my hues from?" Those words choked off the even-tempered old man, once an eloquent teacher of Marxist-Leninist doctrine. He would quietly lament the metamorphosis of his sweet little girl. Well, she did what she pleased. Oh, I love that. Okay. I think I might have to start this one soon. Ronan, among others, I believe, have talked about this on Twitter, and that's why I got it. And again, it's one that I'll maybe get to for Women in Translation next year, not this year. Although it's early August, who knows? Catherine the Great and the Small. What a fabulous title by... I've just double-checked, and the pronunciation is Ola Knezovich, and it is jointly translated, and these translators have a video where they read an excerpt on the new Translators Aloud channel. I'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. But the translators are Paula Gordon and Ellen Elias Bursak. Ellen Elias Bursak is also the translator of Dasha Derndich's Trieste, which I'm currently reading, translated from the Croatian. And it is about a woman named Catherine from that part of the world and her failures in love, family traumas, and an incredible romance. Opening paragraph. It's the beginning of summer 1978. Grown-ups tell us we are the lucky generation. We should be disgusted by revenge and butchery. We should break the cycle. And they teach us, when they throw stones at you, throw bread to them. Good old communism, we agree, after a huddle in front of the building. to answer stones with bread, the finest social system in the world. We had never read the Bible. It was not available to us, and besides, word got around that it was boring, and Marietta, who would know, confirmed it. An old book for old people, she said. Her father was an army man, but her mother was from Pula, in the Republic of Croatia, and kept a Bible hidden under Marietta's winter clothes. And now, this is a kind of an unusual Canadian book, Hope Matters, but with 3 authors, Lee Markle, her daughter Kalumpha Bob, and Tanya Carter. Lee Markle, I've read a book of her essays. She is an Indigenous Canadian writer. She would not like that descriptor, so I better describe her as a member of the Stolo Nation, and she is an essayist and fiction writer. Kalumpha Bob is a producer, director, playwright, and actor, and Tanya Carter is an actor, playwright, and poet. The 3 of them have collaborated on a work of poetry focused on the journey of Indigenous peoples from colonial beginnings to reconciliation. That actually sounds really interesting. I'm going to read you the opening poem called I Am Older Now. Falling in love is a misnomer. We rise in it, flying high, witless about the drop. I am older now. I rise in it sooner, fly much higher. The drop is farther. It is the landing I mind. Oh my God, that's fantastic. And finally, to wrap up this particular book haul, I have 2 from the Furrowed Middlebrow imprint of Dean Street Books, reprinted quote-unquote women's fiction from the middle of the 20th century. This is Nothing to Report by Carol Oman. And this was originally published in 1940. Carol Oman, who I'd never heard of before buying the book. Born in 1897, died in 1978. Most of her writing was historical novels, and she was a very close friend of Georgette Hires. And this does not appear to be historical fiction. Yeah, it seems to be set in and around the opening of the Second World War. Yes, part 1 is 1939. Well, I've had mostly good luck with the Furrowed Middlebrow series of books, and I love their covers, and this one looks particularly gay. Can't wait to try it. And finally, Fresh from the Country by Miss Reed. Now, who is Miss Reed? Dora Jessie Saint, née Schaaf, born 1913. It was her pen name when she started writing fiction in 1953. Her pseudonym was born Miss Reed. She wrote 2 long series of novels. One is the Fairacre novels. It might be about 20. Yeah, I think it's about 20 and novels. And then the Thrush Green novels looks like about 12. And then this one is a standalone from 1960. And it is set on a farm in Essex. And it's about a young teacher. Opening few lines. "And baths extra, of course," said Mrs. Flynn. She crossed the diminutive landing in 4 steps and hurled herself against the bathroom door. It creaked as if in protest, but remained closed. "All our doors," gasped Mrs. Flynn, getting her shoulder to it, "are well-fitting." At the 3rd shove, the door groaned open, and Anna Lacey peered over her prospective landlady's shoulder into a white-tiled cube of a room, which reminded her of the small recess in the dairy at her farmhouse home, where 2 milk churns habitually stood. That's it. Thanks for watching.